Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to Shloka Day. Today's Shloka is Shloka number 3 and 4 of chapter 15. Narupamasyeha tathopalabhyate
Narupamasyeha tathopalabhyate
Nanto na chadirna cha sampratishtha
Nando na chadina cha sampratishtha
Ashvatham yenam suvirudhamulam
Ashvattam yenam suvirudhamulam
Asangashastrena dridhena chitva
Asangashastrena dridhena chitva
Tatah padam tatparimargitavyam
Tatapadam tatparimargidavyam
Yasmin gata nanivartanti bhuyah
Yasmin gatana nivartandi bhuyah
Tameva chadyam purusham prabhatye
Tameva jadyam purusham prabhatye
Yatah pravrittif prasrita purani
Yata pravritti prasuta purani.
Put forward meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Na,
Na,
not, Rupam,
Rupam,
the form, Asya, of this tree, Iha, in this world, Tatha, also, Upalabhyate, can be perceived, Na, never, Antaha, end, Na, never, Cha, also, Adihi, beginning, Na, never, Cha, also, Sampratishtha, the foundation, Ashvatham, banyan tree, Enam, this, Suvirudha, strongly, Moolam, rooted, Asangashastrena, by the weapon of detachment. Dridena, sorry, yeah. Strong. Chitva, cutting. Tataha, thereafter. Padam, situation. Tat, that. Parimargitavyam, has to be searched out. Yasmin, where. Gataha, going. Na, never. Nivartanti, they come back. Bhuyaha, again. Tam, to him. Eva, certainly. Cha, also. Adyam, original. Purusham, the personality of Godhead. Prapatye, surrender. Yataha, from whom. Pravrittihi, the beginning. Prasrita, extended. Purani, very old. Translation. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination,
but with determination,
one must cut down the strongly rooted tree
one must cut down the strongly rooted tree
with the weapon of detachment.
with a weapon of detachment.
Thereafter, one must seek that place
Thereafter, one must seek that place
from which, having gone, one never returns,
one never returns,
and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead,
and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead,
from whom everything began,
from whom everything began,
and from whom everything has extended
and from whom everything has extended
since time immemorial.
since time immemorial.
So, in the purport, Prabhupada writes, it is now clearly stated that the real form of this banyan tree cannot be understood in this material world. Since the root is upwards, the extension of the real tree is at the other end. When entangled with the material expansions of the tree, one cannot see how far the tree extends, nor can one see the beginning of this tree. Yet, one has to find out the cause. I am the son of my father is the son of such and such a person, etc. By searching in this way, one comes to Brahma, who is generated by the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Finally, in this way, one reaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the end of research work. So if you keep looking for where did you come from, you can trace your lineage to your father, your grandfather, your great-great-grandfather. And if you keep going on, Prabhupada says, you have to ultimately come to Brahma, because all of us have a lineage from Brahma. And then if you go beyond Brahma, then Brahma himself was created by Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, which means all of us come from Vishnu. Finally, in this way, when one reaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is the end of our research work. One has to search out that origin of this tree, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, through the association of persons who are in knowledge of that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then by understanding, one becomes gradually detached from this false reflection of reality. And by knowledge, one can cut off the connection and actually become situated in the real tree. The word asanga is very important in this connection, because the attachment for sense enjoyment and lording it over the material nature is very strong. Therefore, one must learn detachment by discussion of spiritual science based on authoritative scriptures, and one must hear from persons who are actually in knowledge. So Prabhupada is explaining, how do you develop this weapon of detachment? That weapon of detachment is actually knowledge, and that knowledge can only be developed when you are guided by bona fide acharyas, by gurus, diksha gurus, shiksha gurus, etc. Then slowly you will begin this process of asanga. As a result of such discussion and the association of devotees, one comes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then the first thing one must do is surrender to Him. The description of that place whence, having gone, one never returns to this false reflected tree is given here. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the original root from whom everything has emanated. So what is the difference between Garbhodakashayi Vishnu and Krishna? So Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, Karanodakashayi Vishnu, and Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, they are just a small portion of Krishna. They are not completely Krishna. So that is how we distinguish between Krishna and Vishnu. They are parts of the parts of Krishna. To gain the favor of that personality of Godhead, one has only to surrender. And this is a result of performing devotional service by hearing, chanting, etc. He is the cause of the extension of the material world. This has already been explained by the Lord Himself. Aham sarvasya prabhavaha. I am the origin of everything. Therefore, to get out of the entanglement of the strong banyan tree of material life, one must surrender to Krishna. As soon as one surrenders unto Krishna, one becomes detached automatically from this material extension. So, from another parampara, Sri Krishna says that the mystery of the Ashwath tree is not easy to understand for the embodied souls, as they are deeply entangled in the continuous cycle of life and death. The buds of the tree, which are the objects of the senses, lure them into developing desire. So there are many attractive things that our senses take notice of, and that is the cause of the development of desires. Ignorant souls keep working hard towards fulfilling these desires, which only keep increasing and nourish the tree to grow further. So, this false tree, we keep feeding it with our desires. That's the nourishment for our attachment to this material world. When such desires are fulfilled, they return with double the intensity, forming greed. But when obstructed, it causes anger, which fogs the intellect and further deepens the ignorance. So, if your desire is satisfied, it will ultimately lead to greed. If your desire is not satisfied, it causes a lot of disappointment, anger, and it will send you more into tamogun. In the bodily form, the soul only thinks of itself to be the person in flesh and bones. It is forgetful of its origin and its eternal existence. It identifies itself with its human name, family, country, etc. Thus, to satisfy the bodily needs and in quest of material happiness, the living being gets involved in unfruitful endeavors. So, pretty soon, we lead a very complex life, far away from Krishna. Sometimes, to satiate one's materialistic desires, knowingly or unknowingly, a human being commits sins. These cause it to move downward and it is reborn in the lower species and other regions. No matter what we may think, every activity of ours, there is some sinful element part of it. When we walk, when we talk, when we eat, we are committing so many sins. And therefore, there is only one solution to it. One has to surrender to the Supreme. Whereas sometimes it gets attracted towards the leaves of this tree, which are the ritualistic ceremonies of the Vedas. So sometimes you're attracted by the buds, sometimes you're attracted by the leaves. The leaves are all the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas. These help in accumulating pious merit. So if you are following the Vedic scriptures, then you will accumulate punya. The propensity of material pleasures drives the human being to involve in such pious activities. The pious merits help the soul move upward in the celestial abodes. But once these merits deplete, it is sent back to the lower forms, and this cycle continues. Thus Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Krishna bhuli shay jiva anadi bahirmukha ataiva maya tare deya samsara dukkha kabhu swarge utthaya kabhu narake dhubaya thandya jane raja yena nadite chube. Since the soul, this is translation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's shloka here, since the soul is forgetful of God since eternity, the material energy is subjecting it to worldly miseries. Sometimes it lifts the soul to the celestial abodes, and other times it drops it down to the hellish regions. This is akin to the torture meted by kings in olden times. So, in the olden days, one of the punishments was that you have to immerse a person under the water, and just when that person thinks they're going to die, you lift him up, allow him to breathe, then you put him down again inside the water. So this was considered to be one form of punishment. Nobody wants to experience near death, but when you experience near death and you are given a reprieve, you feel so relieved, and then again you go under. So this is actually material life. The condition is similar for a soul trapped in the tree of material existence. It is pushed back and forth between the upper and lower regions according to its merits. When born in the celestial forms, it enjoys some temporary relief, which fades soon, and the soul gets dropped back to the human form. So several lifetimes have passed like this, and the soul continues to work towards material enjoyment. So this has caused the tree to expand its roots of desire farther and has become huge. Yet this tree can be cut with dispassion, says Lord Shri Krishna. The remedy for the soul's never-ending suffering is asang, which means detachment. That means detachment from material desires, attachment to spiritual desires, and attachment to devotees. The acts of detachment can cut the roots of desires which are nourished by the three modes of material nature, which means the three gunas is actually the fertilizer for our desires. The Lord further explains that this acts of detachment can only be developed with the knowledge of the self. So the only choice we have is to develop knowledge of self and super self. One has to realize that I am not this material body, but an eternal spiritual being. The everlasting happiness that I pursue cannot be achieved with material things. My endeavors towards gratification of the material desires of this material body have no satiation. They are only getting me further trapped in the samsara or the web of life and death. With detachment, one can stop further growth of the tree roots, and due to lack of nourishment, the tree starts to wither. The next step is to look for the base of this upside down tree, which in real terms is on the top and much higher than everything else. It's here that the Supreme Lord of all creation resides. So we have to go in the opposite direction. If we feed our material desires, we are moving away from Krishna. If we start nourishing our spiritual desires, then we are moving in the direction towards Krishna. As Lord Sri Krishna had earlier mentioned, I am the origin of all creation. Everything proceeds from me. The wise who know this perfectly worship me with great faith and devotion. So this is the Chatushloke, the first shloka, shloka number 8. Therefore, to find the ultimate source, we must surrender to God as explained in this verse. I submit unto him from whom the universe came into being a long time ago. This way, the unfathomable tree can be conquered and axed. However, in an earlier verse, Sri Krishna has also said that my divine energy, Maya, consisting of the three modes of nature, is very difficult to overcome. But those who surrender unto me cross over it easily. So even though the Lord is saying that these three gunas is very hard to overcome, yet if we take that first step of surrender towards Krishna, then Krishna says it's quite easy. Why is it quite easy? Because the Lord himself will assist you from there on. That's what we need. We want the Lord in our life and we want his assistance to help us. We can't do it on our own. Look at the complexity of how karma works. Every life we are depositing some punya, some papa, some punya, some papa. This cycle keeps going on. So the only person who can help break us free from the cycle is the Lord himself. So unless we are ready to surrender, there's just no hope for us. Therefore, the only way to cut down the Ashwath tree is by totally surrendering to the Supreme Lord and taking his refuge. Imagine this banyan tree if you try to cut by yourself. You're a tiny little person and this banyan tree is huge. How many millions of years it will take you to try this on your own? Therefore, Krishna says, why don't you depend on me and me alone? Then I will help you. But of course, that process has to start with chanting and hearing. By doing this, we will not return to this material world, and after death, will go to his divine abode. In the next verse, Sri Krishna has revealed the requirements for the process of surrender. So that we will look at tomorrow. And after that, Krishna is going to say, if we continue to have desires, then we are going to get different types of bodies, different types of ears, nose, mouth, skin, hair, to satisfy our various desires. So that is the danger that Krishna will describe that you and I are facing. It is very dangerous, this life, unless we take shelter of the Supreme Lord and take the association of his devotees and take the guidance of pure devotees.
If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the bell notification. If you'd like to join our classes every day, please check the details in the description section of this video. We look forward to serving you.